All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation, Hidden in Plain Sight. My name is Joanne Worsline. I'm the Vice President here at your JTHS Miami office. This program is being recorded, so please keep your mics on mute and note that the chat will be closed until we open it up for the question and answer towards the end of the program. I would now like to introduce our two-time past president and current JTHS Miami leader, Phyllis Choi. Good morning, Phyllis.
Good morning. Thank you, Joanne. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for taking time to join us this morning on this very important discussion. It is my privilege at this point to introduce our guest speaker. Erin Collins is the Executive Director of the Florida Alliance to End Human Trafficking. The Florida Alliance to End Human Trafficking is a nonprofit organization created by the Florida legislature to provide funding, support, and assistance to the statewide effort to end human trafficking. Prior to this role, Erin served as the External Affairs Manager for the Agency for Statewide Technology, overseeing all legislature affairs and communications efforts. She has previously worked as a consultant with National Strategies, a state and local government consulting firm, assisting clients with business development and procurement-related activities. She's also held various positions with Florida Tax Watch, an independent, nonpartisan, nonprofit research institute and government watchdog, including Director of Membership and External Relations. Erin is a past statewide chair of the Junior Leagues of Florida State Public Affairs Committee and currently serves on the board as Membership and Communications Chair. She is a sustainer member of the Junior League of Tallahassee and serves on the board of directors of the Foundation for Leon County Schools and Capital Area Gator Club. Erin is a member of the Leadership Tallahassee Class 39. In 2022, Erin was recognized by the Tallahassee Democrat as one of the top 25 women you need to know. Also an honoree of the University of Florida Alumni Association's 40 Gators Under 40, and a finalist for the Servant Leadership Award presented by Leadership Tallahassee. Erin received a Bachelor of Arts of Political Science and a Bachelor of Science in Telecommunications from the University of Florida. Please join me in welcoming my daughter, Erin Collins.
Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And thank you to the Jupiter Tequesta Hope Sound and Miami Realtors and all of the guests who have joined us today. If you had not heard, January is Human Trafficking Awareness and Prevention Month. So by attending this session, reading articles, getting engaged on this important topic, you are being part of the solution. As my mom mentioned, the Florida Alliance was created by the Florida legislature in 2019 to provide funding and support and assistance to the statewide effort to end human trafficking. We're focused on awareness, prevention, and training, along with fundraising efforts to support advocates and partners. So these are just a few recent headlines that are primarily from South Florida. There is one from Jacksonville. But as much as we work so hard, and I know that the realtor community and its partners do so much, whether it's helping buyers or sellers relocate, move to a different home in our community, we spend a lot of time and investment attracting people to our state. But no one wants to move to a place where you see headlines like these, stories that are impacting vulnerable individuals.
Erin?
Yes.
Your slide hasn't moved. We're still seeing your first slide.
Oh, goodness.
I think you had paused it.
Yes, I did. We should now be able to see it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. These are just some of the headlines from the last 4 weeks throughout our state, throughout our state, but a few focused in South Florida. Again, we do a lot of investment, whether it's through the realtor industry or the state of Florida, to attract people, businesses, a workforce to come to our wonderful state for a variety of reasons. No one wants to come to a community or an area where they see articles about this horrific crime, especially when it impacts minors, any individual, but especially minors. This is a heat map of where human trafficking reports come in from. And unfortunately, as we know, every year, millions of women, children, and men are trafficked worldwide, including right here in the United States. According to the International Labor Organization, roughly 25 million people are exploited and trafficked around the world. It can happen in any community, and victims can be any age, any race, any gender, or nationality. Human trafficking is the fastest growing and second largest criminal industry in the world, just second behind arms and drug sales. It generates $150 billion in illegal profits every year. Sex trafficking disproportionately affects women and children. And the average age of a child when forced into a sex trafficking situation is only between the ages of 12 and 14 years old. Women and girls make up 80% of the people trafficked transnationally. So what is human trafficking? Human trafficking involves the use of force, fraud, or coercion to obtain some type of commercial, labor, or sex act. Now, traffickers look for people who are susceptible for a variety of factors, including psychological or emotional vulnerabilities, economic hardship, lack of a safety net or social network, natural disasters, and even political instability. Traffickers might use violence or manipulation, false promises of a well-paying job, or romantic relationships to lure people into a trafficking situation. Language barriers, fear of their traffickers, and or maybe fear of law enforcement frequently keep victims from seeking help, making human trafficking a hidden crime. The trauma caused by traffickers can be so great that some individuals might not see themselves as a victim because those trauma bonds and relationships have been created, so they don't ask for help, even if they are in highly public settings. Social media and the internet is a huge part of the equation as it relates to trafficking. Now, these are some of the signs and potential indicators of human trafficking. And just because one or more are present in a potential situation doesn't necessarily mean it's always human trafficking. But recognizing these key indicators is the first step to help identifying victims and potentially help save a life. So some of the common indicators and questions you might ask yourself: does this person appear disconnected from family, from friends, from their community, their places of worship? If this person is a minor, have they stopped attending school? Does the person appear fearful, timid, or submissive? Does the person show signs of having been denied food or water, sleep, maybe medical care? Is this person living in an unsuitable or unsafe condition? Do they lack personal possessions and appear not to have a stable living environment? Does the person have freedom of movement? Can they freely leave where they currently are staying? Are there unreasonable security measures? Some of the physical indicators might include burn marks, bruises, or cuts, less appropriately dressed than before. If you knew an individual and they start dressing in a very different manner from which you knew them before. Withdrawn, depressed, distracted. Do they brag about having additional money, new items of clothing? Tattoos. Tattoos are often used by pimps as a way to brand their victims. Does this individual have an older boyfriend or girlfriend, new friends with a very different lifestyle, or even gang involvement? Now, everyone has the opportunity to potentially discover a human trafficking situation. While the victims might be kept behind locked doors, they're often hidden right in front of us. For example, at construction sites, restaurants, nail salons, agricultural fields, and hotels. Traffickers' use of coercion, such as threats of deportation, harm to the victim or their family members, is so powerful that even if you reach out to this individual, they might not accept your help because they are too scared of the consequences. Here are some myths and misconceptions. Unfortunately, human trafficking can happen in any community, in addition to globally. Human trafficking victims are only foreign-born individuals and those who are poor. That is not true. We'll get into some other indicators and stories, but just because someone lives in the idyllic community, a gated community, anywhere in our wonderful state, doesn't mean that the people behind those gates are any less vulnerable. They might have less risk factors than individuals who might be part of the child welfare system, might be suffering from homelessness, but everyone at some point has a vulnerability. Human trafficking is only sex trafficking. Forced labor is another type of human trafficking. And there might even be forms of trafficking and exploitation that we didn't even know about. And then human trafficking and human smuggling are the same. Human smuggling requires movement across a border where human trafficking does not. Human trafficking is a market-driven criminal industry that's based on supply and demand, like arms or drug trafficking. These are some figures from the International Labor Organization about where goods and services are produced globally. And this presentation will be shared with you all afterwards. So if you're not able to see some of those stats, it'll be sent to you. But it's always so important to know where you're getting your goods and services. I know that we like our coffee, our chocolate, other garments, but do you know if forced labor is a part of that supply chain or that equation? It might be worth it to know that your item that you're consuming is fair trade, and that every point of the supply chain, individuals are being paid a fair wage and not being forced to create that good or service. So focusing here on Florida, according to the Department of Children and Families in 2021, these are the counties with the highest prevalence of verified cases of commercial sexual exploitation in children minors: Broward, Polk, Escambia, and Orange. And these are the number of reports over the past few years to the Department of Children and Families Florida Abuse Hotline of commercial sexual exploitation of children. They follow the maltreatment types for a variety of different factors, with the allegations, again, that include commercial sexual exploitation, which could be in adult entertainment clubs, escort services, or prostitution. And as another myth buster, in the state, or the definition of human trafficking for the legal perspective, you have to prove force, fraud, or coercion. But if a minor is involved, you do not have to prove that. The other numbers that go into these figures for the various years, the allegations are against caregivers, others, or institutional, so child welfare organization. And so this distinction separates reports on the type of perpetrator versus a parent, a legal guardian, et cetera. So in 2020 and 21, the total number of reports to the Florida Abuse Hotline was nearly 2,300 individuals, with the majority of them being children. 93 or 92.97% were coded as commercial sexual exploitation, and almost 7% were for labor trafficking. And again, the large metropolitan areas do have a higher reports of human trafficking. Last year was a little interesting as we analyzed the data that Polk County was up at the top in that previous slide. That can be attributed to the Polk County Sheriff and law enforcement really digging in and making some major arrests, over 100 individuals with regards to human trafficking. So here are the statistics since 2015. You can see that they've kind of stayed steady, but did peak in 2020 and 2021. You know, some people say, oh, it's, you know, growing exponentially. There are more calls, there are more reports, more allegations. The goal is to provide law enforcement with actionable tips. And a lot of the cases and times where numbers have increased, it can be attributed to changes in laws, more awareness campaigns, people getting engaged, attending virtual events like these, and learning about the topic and sharing it with their networks. Again, we're all out in the community, whether it's at an open house, going to the grocery store, traveling via a various mode of transportation in our state. We all have the opportunity to say something. So rather than, turn a blind eye, we're all very busy. Sometimes we're distracted. But if you've taken a training, you've learned more about human trafficking, what the myths and the misconceptions are and are not, you might be able to prevent a situation. I did also want to note that in 2021, a law went into effect that required hospitality and tourism frontline personnel to take an annual training. So those are people that are the valets, the receptionists, housekeepers, maintenance staff. They're required to take an annual training, and some of the uptick in those reports can be attributed to that. Now, we all know, unfortunately, technology is a huge component of human trafficking. This is part of an awareness campaign that we launched last fall with the Florida Department of Education Commissioner Manny Diaz, and someone who you all know very well, Senator Ana Maria Rodriguez, down in Miami to equip people, students, parents, teachers, with information about online safety and really opening the dialogue and the conversation about the types of relationships and privacy and the things that are allowed and responsible, but really just ensuring that students, that minors can go
real
to.
quick. Sorry.
So these are some of the most frequently used apps as identified by law enforcement that traffickers and buyers are using to communicate with individuals. So we see Snapchat, another one called Meet Me, Whisper, Live Me, and Discord. There are some others that I would like to include that include a calculator app. So regardless of your provider, the manufacturer of your phone, everyone has that innate calculator on their phone. Unfortunately, this one is used for nefarious purposes that is encrypted, and individuals, law enforcement have a very challenging time to identify location. And it's specifically meant to hide photos, hide videos, according to its app description. It also features a password protection, decoy videos, and alarm settings. This is a crazy stat, but 1 in 5 kids are sexually propositioned through gaming platforms and other social media, according to MIT. Think about that. We all have children, young grandchildren, nieces, nephews, young people that are using technology to learn, to get educated, for good and innovative purposes as they were intended. But they are an online access to really the world. So gone are the days of sitting in your kitchen or your family room where your parents or guardian can monitor your use. Students, young people are in their rooms, again, using their different platforms for educational purposes. But do we know that they are communicating with people that have been approved, that they know? So that's why it's so important to, regardless of the age of your child or a young person, in the age-appropriate manner, because we all know our children and what is best and what they can cognitively understand, open up the conversation about online friendships and relationships. Now, obviously, the conversations that we have with a 6-year-old are very different than the conversations with a 16-year-old. But the hope is that starting those conversations early enough in that age-appropriate manner, we hopefully won't one day have to worry about human trafficking. The other thing that I did want to mention, in November of 2020, the Department of Education instituted a rule that all students in public schools, as part of their health curriculum, are to have age-appropriate human trafficking awareness training. The providers are selected by the school districts, and you can actually go on the Department of Education website to view which providers and how your student, if in a public school within the state of Florida, is receiving that age-appropriate awareness training. A little bit more about this organization. We are so grateful to the Florida legislature for instituting into law a nonprofit organization to collectively increase awareness statewide, to work with local human trafficking task forces, which are based by Judicial Circuit under the Office of the Attorney General, and to truly partner with the Statewide Council on Human Trafficking, which is led by our wonderful Attorney General, Ashley Moody. The part of the legislation that I mentioned earlier that is required annual training for hospitality and tourism individuals is something that we focus on year round. In an upcoming slide, I'll tell you a little bit more about that, but really encourage you all to take the training. It's 1 hour. It's a small investment of your time to learn the facts, to be able to identify the potential signs and indicators, where to report, and potentially stop something from happening. Since launching our awareness course, over 15,000 individuals have taken it. And we are very pleased that with the assistance and support of Senator Rodriguez, we are currently expanding the training into 5 different languages, including Spanish, which will be voiceover, Haitian Creole, French, Mandarin, and Portuguese. And we'll be launching that in a few months. And we're very excited about that. Because again, if the message, an increase in awareness, that happens in populations and communities all across our state, where English might not be the native language. We want to make sure that everyone is receiving these important tips and reminders. The other thing that we're very focused on in conjunction with the statewide council and the Attorney General is supporting innovative technology solutions for law enforcement. So last summer, we issued a request for information to all local sheriffs and police departments to learn about the current technologies that they're using in their proactive investigatory work to combat human trafficking, and then also to identify future needs. As we all know, there are counties and police departments that receive funding from the state through federal or other partners, regional human trafficking task forces. Some have dedicated units, which is phenomenal. Personnel that are doing the work day in, day out. But most police departments and sheriffs are in the major crimes or domestic violence. And so to have a dedicated human trafficking unit with technology is wonderful and proactive. We want to be able to offer them grants to either initiate or acquire technologies that can help them that are proven, or to expand their current capabilities. So we're very excited that later this year, we'll be offering grants to agencies that apply. That'll be kicking off in a couple of months with disbursements later this summer. Because again, our first responders, our law enforcement can't do their work, one, without the community, without the public, without tips and reports coming to the national hotline and or to local law enforcement, but also technology that complements it to be able to identify the technologies that are being used for nefarious and illegal purposes. So the Florida Alliance created an online training course. Again, you can snap a photo of that QR code or visit the website later once you receive this presentation. But it's so important that across industry, regardless of whether you're required to take it by statute or you have an interest for your industry. So last summer, our course was approved by the Florida Bar for legal professionals for continuing education. Whether you are in family court or you represent different individuals from the victim, survivor standpoint, legal professionals are in courthouses, working with their clerks of court, and seeing a lot of different people throughout the community. And so it was wonderful that they reviewed and approved our course. Additionally, a large industry that was added on last year was fire safety inspectors. Whether commercial or residential, they're going into places of a building where the general public cannot. And so one of our board members worked with the head of the Fire Safety Inspectors Association to add that to our statute as they provide continuing education for their members. And again, the statute and the required training that was part of our kind of mission and charge from the legislature included the hospitality and tourism industry. These are just some of the industries that at the top are completing our trainings, but really challenge everyone on this training. Take an hour, take it in one felt swoop during your lunch break, take it in segments, 10-minute segments, maybe during the weekday. But again, knowing the facts, the potential signs and indicators, what are the signs and myths and not? We touched on a few earlier. I would rather have conversations with my friends or reply to the anonymous emails that I receive about what human trafficking is and is not. Because once we know when viral posts are shared, regardless of the technology platform, we can't put them back. We saw a lot of myths during part of 20 and 21 when people were mostly homebound due to the pandemic. And again, technology, social media can be a force for good, for innovation, for collaboration, but not when it's sharing myths and things that are used to stoke anxiety, concern, fear. So if there's ever a question that you have and you want to, snap a screenshot or send a social media post, I know that my contact information will be shared after this. Feel free to shoot me a note or give me a call, because again, we want to share fact-based information and not myths. These are some of the other individuals from a healthcare perspective that are required to take training. As you can imagine, there are a lot of these individuals who are interacting with the public a lot. The one thing that I'm very excited for this upcoming legislative session, which we just began our committee weeks earlier this month, there's a lot of discussion about modifying and introducing new laws that impact human trafficking. A few bills have been filed, one from Senator Lori Berman from South Florida, increasing the penalties, supporting victims. So stay tuned. This is a very important topic. And again, we want to make sure that we are identifying maybe industries that could benefit from training, because they're such large parts of the communities. But also, it's so important to provide survivors the sustainable long-term care that they'll need. Initiative that we partnered with the Office of the Attorney General on is called the 100% Club. Everyone loves a little competition, and why not have a little competition with increase in awareness on this important topic? The charge from and the challenge from the Attorney General and from our organization is really asking all Florida businesses, 5,000 people, employees, or 5, businesses and organizations to proactively join us in the fight to get educated by training your workforce. And it knows no bounds. All organizations, local governments can join. This form of modern day slavery claims victims of all ages, sex, ethnicity, and demographics. So this is a partnership between the Office of the Attorney General and these companies that learn the signs and indicators of human trafficking, what to do if they suspect suspicious or illegal activity, and also providing quick references and resources to effectively report human trafficking. So when we know employees are equipped with the knowledge and the proper tools and that training, they become the eyes and the ears of the community. By participating in the 100% Club, companies and organizations commit to training their entire workforce and being part of the solution. Other ways that people can get involved is through advocacy and awareness. And as someone who lives and works in Tallahassee, I know that the majority of the participants on this virtual event today are realtors or work in the real estate industry. And when you come for Great American Realtor Days in Tallahassee every year, you all are a force. So if you're so inclined, challenge your colleagues to help share when laws are being introduced. learn more about them. Talk with, I know Senator Rodriguez is always available, but talk with your local delegations and your local elected officials. Share that information. Require or even challenge, ask those members to engage in more public awareness campaigns. We all know when we're traveling, again, whether by air, by land, by sea, we've seen those awareness signs, the hotline number, different signs and indicators of potential human trafficking and rest stops. You can commemorate efforts. So the Florida Alliance, in partnership with several statewide and local organizations this month, are working with people to, again, increase awareness, recognize. But just because a month is set aside to discuss and devote to the topic doesn't mean that the work ends and the work stops, because we know that these exploitive behaviors and situations are going on year long. Other ways that you can encourage businesses, maybe your own business, to increase human trafficking awareness, requiring the disclosures of anti-trafficking efforts. On You Can Stop HT, which was on the previous slide, that is a wonderful way, in addition to our website, where there are downloadable printed information, small palm cards or posters to post in a conspicuous manner and location in your workplace, in the break room. Encourage volunteer anti-trafficking commitments and efforts. Challenging or maybe setting standards for licensing in some professions and advertising for certain services. And then obviously requiring anti-trafficking training. Some other ways to combat human trafficking, we've done some of that today at a very high level. Learning the potential indicators, taking a training. Again, I hope you will consider taking our 1-hour training after this. We mentioned knowing where your goods or products are made, volunteering and supporting. There are wonderful organizations, whether it's your local or regional task force or service providers that, again, have volunteer on the ground operations that need members of the community to assist. It goes without saying, meeting with your elected officials, host an awareness raising event, host a fundraiser, donate the proceeds to an organization, and educating children. It starts with our littlest of learners, as I say, that opening up the dialogue to potentially stop human trafficking from happening in their lifetime is a possibility when we start those discussions. I'd be remiss if I didn't include the National Human Trafficking Hotline, which is so important. And that number is 888-373-7888. You can also text Be Free to 233-733. And You Can Stop HT is the website under the Office of the Attorney General, where you can learn more about the 100% Club, see those downloadable resources and information for your place of business in your community. Well, that's all I had for right now. I am sure there might be questions or comments. I'm happy to answer any and all of them. So Joanne and Phyllis, that is my formal presentation, and happy to entertain any comments or questions.
Thank you. That was a lot of great information. I would now like to introduce our JTHS Miami past president and current leader, Nancy Cardone.
Thank you, Joanne, and thank you, Erin, for all the information. In the chat, I don't have any questions at the moment, so I'm going to start with a couple that will give people the opportunity to gather their thoughts, and raise any questions or comments that they would like to. So let me start. I want to double back to your comment about long-term support, especially with children. How are children repatriated after being a victim of human trafficking? Because we know the trauma associated with any kind, whether it's human or sexual trafficking, will affect their family life, will affect their school life, and certainly professional services would be needed so that they can re-enter those and not harm, their friends and family. So what kind of support is there for that?
Certainly. I will say, and I think it goes without saying, but like every trafficking situation is very unique and very different, and especially when it involves a minor. So there's not one right answer. As mentioned, there are a lot of phenomenal service providers around our state that work with the survivor. And if they have parents or guardians that are a part of their lives in a consistent, healthy manner, they can be part of that plan. There's a lot of different therapies. I will say, for example, if an individual, regardless of their age, was forced to take drugs as a part of their trafficking situation, that detox and rehabilitative portion of their care might last a long period of time. And that's very different than an individual that is not. There are a lot of different therapies, and that changes over time. The other thing that I'll state is, some individuals, as briefly mentioned earlier, once they're identified by law enforcement, don't believe they are a victim, even if they are a minor. There are individuals that see it as making money for their family. They, again, they believe the false promises, lies, the manipulation, the relationship that has been developed with their trafficker or other individuals who might be in a similar situation and are trafficked in the same situation. So again, there's not a one size continuum of care for individuals. It's very unique, but the important thing is to learn to be able to spot what potential exploitive situations might be, have law enforcement investigate, take it from there. And then depending upon the individual's health and their safety, once they're removed from that exploitive situation, really working with that service provider, mental health, behavioral, and that is for the rest of that individual's life. But again, there are always challenges with regards to the drug use and the manipulation, and then also individuals who don't identify as a victim.
That I want to touch on a little bit. As a matter of fact, I'm familiar with this because I'm a guardian ad litem for the state of Florida, and we see this particularly in children. And where they don't consider themselves a victim, oftentimes the problem arises that they serve as recruiters. And so they literally can be in the schools recruiting other people for some of this. Can you expand on that for just a moment?
Yeah, so a lot of recruitment, and I think it's been in the news a lot lately, unfortunately, especially with our minors and our students, really centers around social media. And that is why starting those age-appropriate conversations is so important. The other thing with individuals, in school, again, under 18, are noticing the behavior. We all know, and even as grown adults, we can be a little sassy or short or emotional, but especially as a teen and a young adult, it's a vulnerable time. Right now in 2023, these young individuals have really gone through a lot in their formative, very important parts of their upbringing. And then you add on, the pressure with school and grades and sports and family, and just the fundamental aspect of wanting to be loved, cared for, and seen. We want that at any age. But when you don't have the positive influences around you, people see that and can take advantage of it. Is a student, is one of your, daughter's friends who comes to your home frequently, flashing new clothes, expensive clothes, luxury items, purses, shoes, hair, nails are always done, but maybe a little bit more about their family history. And some of these things are kind of pricey, even if, this teen had a job. The other thing that starts out innocent and can devolve very quickly is, know who your, child or your student is communicating with, but what they're sending. You know, people, there's a lot of interesting stories out there. Again, but knowing what they're sending, and what I mean is, are they sending the cute filter face with the bunny ears, or are they sending what most would consider provocative? And it might start as a smile or their face, and then it's other parts of their body. And that can be, you know, peer pressure from just friends, which can turn into them sharing it, who knows, countless number of times to people who then sell those images. There have been a lot of news stories recently about credit card processing companies who have been really held accountable through large civil action lawsuits because they're processing payments knowingly of vendors who are distributing commercial sex abuse, CSAM, and photos and videos of minors. So not saying that every young person who has a phone and is making TikTok dances or learning how to do makeup is doing something questionable, but really knowing how that young person is using their phone and putting the privacy controls on. I'd rather be the disciplinarian who provides structure and the not cool person than the potential parent or guardian who doesn't know what is being transmitted, and it ends up going viral and somehow law enforcement is involved. So the grooming process is real. Again, sound like a broken record, but having the age appropriate conversations with our kids, with our minors, and also knowing who their friends are. I know it's hard sometimes because we're not calling in our kids when the sun is going down for dinner. They're sitting 2 feet away from us on the sofa on their phone in between homework, hopefully it's done, and dinner time, and we don't know who's out there. But it goes back to opening the conversation and asking them questions. What are they seeing on social media, and see where it goes from there. And I think we'll be surprised how open those conversations can be.
Thank you very much. That's a lot of good information. Jennifer Woolman is asking, you heard that people involved with short-term rentals are supposed to have the training. Is that true under the hospitality requirement?
So it's not a requirement by law, but we work with a lot of different short-term rental organizations. I won't name them, but you can guess, to train their employees. The other thing I will say, and specifically for the majority of this audience, in addition to short-term rentals, as real estate professionals, when you have a buyer coming in that's going to pay cash and a short closing time,
but Sailor's so funny about it. You
get excited, and obviously there are legal parameters and contracts that do have to be signed, but we saw an uptick in the purchase of luxury homes and properties prior to the Super Bowl in Miami. I was kind of shocked by that when it was brought to our attention by an individual with the Broward County Coalition, their local task force, that they were seeing that. So again, you all make up hundreds of thousands of people in our state and across the country who interact with people sometime for a short period of time or in a repeat situation to spot the signs. So really challenge everyone to take the training, to attend more sessions like this. So hopefully we can prevent human trafficking.
Very important point. I do want to repeat to everyone that this session is being recorded, so that at any time you would like to review it or share it with other folks in your office, it will be available to you, as well as all of the slides, and the information for the training that Erin is promoting is also available on these slides. Those are all the questions that I have. Our CEO, Teresa Kinkenny, would like to make some comments. You all know that Teresa considers this a top priority item and has brought a lot of attention to it, which we thank her so very much for. Teresa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nancy and Erin and Phyllis and all of you for attending. There were 78 people on this seminar. which we are so grateful for. What I want to do is, on behalf of the chairman of the board, Inez Hedges Garcia, and chair-elect Gus Fonte, I want to let you know that this has been identified and committed to as a high top-level priority for the association starting this year and long into the future. We weren't even aware of how important the realtor awareness and identification could be in this process until we were at the National Association of Realtors Leadership Program in Chicago in August. And they had two key speakers on the program, including Elizabeth Smart herself, who said, along with one other person who identified herself as having been trafficked for 7 years. And each of them said, as they looked at the audience, I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for people like you. And it hadn't, I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. It had not really come to our attention in this way, how important you are. And we have 60,000 members who are in the community every single day. They are in homes every single day. You're also out in all of the other places that you go because you're so active. And we want to make sure that as many of our members as possible can be exposed to the key points to look for and the training. And we're going to look to have specialized training also as it relates to realtors. And so how can you as realtors be better able to help identify some of these problems and save lives? And we want those numbers for Florida and South Florida to go way down. Yes, we want them reported, but we want them reported so that we can keep it from happening. So again, a major top priority for Miami Realtors is going to be this. And those of you who would like to get involved, and we'll have efforts in each of the 3 counties, Erin is helping us out, and this is just the beginning of all of this. I found out while we were meeting last week, Inez and Gus and I, about their priorities, that Gus has also been involved in the past in some of these initiatives and very successful programs that they have had in Coral Gables in eliminating, identifying, eliminating, and freeing people. So he's going to reach out to his contacts. We're going to continue to work with Erin. Any of you who have additional ideas or contacts, please let us know. But this is going to be a multi-pronged effort at information, identity, social media, our website, keeping the, when Erin said, when you go into airports and other places, the turnpike, facilities as we were coming back from FR, and there are all of these signs reminding you to be on the lookout. We want to do that within our industry and our environment as well. So again, I appreciate you so much for being here on this Zoom. And Erin, what a great leader you are for this important effort. And Phyllis, great job raising her. All right, so you guys are going to be hearing a lot more. Nancy, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thanks to everyone who joined us this morning. Again, very special thanks to Erin for all that you have brought to our attention this morning. You helped to make us better at what we do. Joanne, any last comments?
I would just like to thank everyone for attending, reminding you this is being recorded. We will put it out probably by the end of this week. So again, thank you and have an awesome day.
Thank you, everyone.